Hi, my name is Logan Hoff and welcome to Hoff Talks. This week we'll be discussing the Heidi Rosen case and how it pertains to the influential concepts presented in the Module 5 readings. Our first discussion point is, what are the strengths of Rosen's network across the different stages of her career? Coming straight out of college with a short list of contacts, Rosen was able to use her limited network to land her first job. She happened to have a friend that knew the hiring manager at a company called Tandem. Rosen made a call and soon found herself editor of the company's newsletter. At this point in her career, it was a lot less about how strong her network was and more about how strong she was as a person. Because of Rosen's unique occupation, she had the opportunity to sit in on many upper-level management meetings. She took full advantage of this time and created a relationship with the CEO of the company. In the future, Rosen would leverage this relationship and ask the CEO to write her a letter of recommendation for graduate school. Although Rosen's network is still small, she shows a true talent for creating meaningful relationships and using them to her advantage. After graduating from Stanford's business school, she decided to work with her brother and created the software company TeamMaker, which was centered around her brother's newly developed spreadsheet program. TeamMaker was struggling to keep up with competitors, and Rosen knew it. If there was ever a breaking point in her career, this was it. At this point, Rosen began to strengthen her network in every way possible for the benefit of her company. She built relationships with members of the press, encouraging them to review TeamMaker. She went to conferences and events that allowed her to maximize even the shortest of conversations and create lasting relationships. She sat on panels, gave interviews, and joined a number of groups, including the Software Entrepreneurs Forum and the Software Publishers Association. She was given access and exposure to the leaders of the technology field when she became president of the SPA. At this point in her career, her network is really taking off. She's creating meaningful relationships with anyone who gets close to her, whether she sees benefit or not. Rosen decides to sell the company and become Apple's vice president of worldwide developer relations. After her role as a Silicon Valley CEO and president of the SPA, Rosen had an almost celebrity status around the area. Apple proved to be one of her more challenging jobs, as it was the first time she had to really test her network. Apple's market share was plummeting, and she had to call in favors to top tech executives, asking them to stick it out with the company. Because of the meaningful relationships she had created along the way, she succeeded in her endeavor and practically brought Apple back from the dead. Her network was strong, and the testing it saw at Apple only made it stronger. This is the first time we glimpse another strength of her networking, the ability to call in favors without demanding that someone owes her something. After leaving Apple, Rosen seemingly created a new job as a mentor capitalist. She helped startups manage through their early phases with her marketing contacts and management expertise. This is where networking essentially became her job and marks the strongest her network has been. She shows the ability to introduce contacts to each other for mutual benefit. Her ability to empathize and not burden extremely busy contacts, and the aptitude to show reciprocity and not always be the one asking favors. One of my favorite quotes from the case is, "Heidi knows her role is to be the door, rather than a window, through which people make connections." At this point, you're probably thinking, what else can she do? She was CEO of a Silicon Valley company, president of the SPA, a vice president for Apple, and then basically created an entirely new job just for herself. Is she going to be president of the United States, take over the world? No, but maybe the next best thing. Venture capitalist. Rosen's workload during this time was very large, so in order to keep up with her network, she made an adjustment that turned out to be one of her biggest networking strengths. Instead of trying to keep in contact with every person in a given network, individually she would just stay in close contact with one person that was the nuclei of a given network. This allowed her to spend much more time on her work while also maintaining and building upon her current network. Our second and final discussion topic for the day is, using the concepts discussed in the readings and video in Module 5, discuss the extent to which these concepts apply to Rosen and how these concepts influenced her power, influence, and networking success. The concepts of givers, matchers, and takers, as discussed in Grant's book and the follow-up video, are readily applicable throughout the case. Rosen's ability to incorporate both giver and matcher styles had a direct positive influence on her power, networking success, and overall influence. She was careful to never become a taker, which I believe is due to her incredible ability to empathize with everyone she met. She never wanted to be the person doing things only for herself. She was always helping people succeed, which not surprisingly led to her own success. Grant quoted Samuel Johnson in his book as saying, "The true measure of a man, or woman, is how he treats someone who can do him absolutely no good." Rosen realized that it wasn't always about being a matcher. A lot of her power and influence came from doing good things and expecting nothing in return. There was no ulterior motives behind a lot of her interactions, which played a key role in her networking success. Rosen also employs some of the concepts discussed in Grant's LinkedIn article on being productively generous. She was very generous and giving, but didn't let people walk all over her. One of the best examples of this was telling her best friend's husband that she didn't have time to read his business proposal. It's hard to tell people no, but Rosen was strong-willed and recognized that it was for the greater good. I'm sure Rosen used all of the 6 principles of persuasion from the Robert C. article, but I'd like to talk about the 2 that stood out the most to me: reciprocity and liking. The concept of reciprocity was the main focus of the latter part of Rosen's career. Her time spent as a mentor capitalist wouldn't have been possible without this concept. She was always making sure not to take more than she gave. The concept of liking is what started her entire career. She would have never made any of the connections she did if it weren't for her likability. She was genuinely interested in the happenings in other people's lives. The 2 concepts of liking and reciprocity had a massive effect on her influence and networking success. The Uzi and Dunlap article on how to build your network is what really puts everything together. There are tons of people out there that have the skills and connections to build a great network like Rosen. But why do so many of them fail? Why is Rosen so successful? The key lies in who she chooses to network with. She became a broker herself that connected many different clusters of people and then networked with other brokers like herself. This allowed her to expand her network exponentially. The ability to connect with other brokers could be the single most important concept leading to Rosen's success. She realized early on that the more people she connected to outside of her own network, the better off she would be. The Rosen case brought this week's articles to life by showing a practical example of each concept discussed. This was an important module that I've learned a great deal from. I look forward to using the concepts learned in my future endeavors. And that's all we have for you this week, folks.